and there is very little time left. We cannot waste any more time.
The president is happy that cooler heads at least seem to be prevailing in the House, that there at least seems to be a recognition that default is not an option.
Let's wait and see what the House does. When they send us something, we'll look at it as clearly and as closely as we can.
All right, at least there was some back and forth in D.C., but that may be all it was. Let me bring Andrew Whitman back in for a second. We got some news from the White House right now.
Well, the Times is reporting that President Obama has rejected the Republican proposal that we talked about before, that 6 weeks debt limit extension. Republican leaders left the White House, skipping the press on their way out. So wonder how well that meeting went at the White House tonight. We know that there were some contentious meetings inside the Capitol today as that Republican deal was being formulated in the first place.
And for more on this, let's bring in Mike Lillis, congressional reporter for The Hill, who's joining us obviously out of D.C. Mike, it's interesting. You hear the Jay Carney press conference where he seemed to at least take a optimistic wait-and-see approach. Soon thereafter, we saw Harry Reid saying, you know, fine, we're willing to talk and all that, but not until the government's open here, as well as more promises on the debt limit. We just get word from the White House, but that it's thanks but no thanks on a 6-week basically stay without the reopening of the government and no more firm promises on debt limit. This thing's a moving target here, but it seemed as if not just Democrats, but even some Senate Republicans not crazy about this 6-week extension and arguably being right back in the same place in a month and a half and the government still be shut down.
Well, that's right. You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And as long as Obama insists that the Republicans have to raise the debt limit and they have to pass a clean CR, the Senate passed spending bill, then it's tough on Boehner, because Speaker Boehner, the Republican leader, because he doesn't have anywhere to go. He's offered up all kinds of different scenarios because he's out on this limb, and he's got this conservative group of Tea Party guys who are really pressuring him not to cave. Today's deal was a cave on his part, and you mentioned the Senate Republicans who didn't like it. There were House Republicans who didn't like it. They had a meeting this morning in the basement of the Capitol. They came out. A lot of guys said we're on board, and a lot of other ones were grumbling that, hey, wait a minute, we had insisted all along that if you raise the debt limit even by a day, there has to, you know, you have to do something with Obamacare. You know, we want to pass the, want to approve the Keystone Pipeline, X, Y, and Z, all their policy priorities. And Boehner coming out today and saying we'll do it clean was a capitulation in their eyes. And so they went into the White House this afternoon with not a whole ton of leverage, because again, Obama hasn't blinked yet. And as you can see, there was no deal, and Obama is standing firm, and just by the virtue of the fact that they didn't go to the mics afterwards, I think that was an indication that the meeting went pretty poorly.
But it's funny, you have Carney go out and give at least the spin that, hey, this is a start here. You know what? We're talking, and we're not gonna throw anything out of hand. And then a few hours later, Mike, you got the White House issuing in a report, no deal. It seemed like this was a little bit of a moving target today. They didn't dismiss it out of hand at their first opportunity.
Yeah, it's been a moving target, I guess, all along. Carney, there was a lot of speculation that Carney said what he did, you know, to not to spook the markets. You know, when Boehner came out this morning and said we'll give you this. Yep. Of course, you saw the reaction on Wall Street, and so if Carney had come out and shot it down, then that spike would have reversed course, and wouldn't have looked good for anybody. So. Carney might have gotten ahead of himself a little bit, or he might have just been thinking, we don't want to kill the markets this afternoon. Let's get to this meeting. And of course, the meeting was after the markets closed. They do that on purpose a lot, and maybe they thought that there was something that could have been worked out, even as Obama was insisting that his position has remained the same.
Mike, it's Andrew Whitman. How much attention is there on the markets? Because, you know, you said the markets are up 320 points today. You got to figure with this news coming out, they're going to go in the tank tomorrow. How closely are they being watched, and is that perhaps a tool or a weapon that's being used in this fight?
It depends on who you ask. You know, there's certainly a majority of Congress is watching that, and they know the political ramifications if the markets tank. They know that they will be blamed. Both parties will be blamed, probably. But there's just some guys who don't care. There's some guys who are just immune to that, and they keep insisting. These are the Tea Party guys. These are the guys who are pushing Boehner from the right. Traditionally, the Republican Party has been influenced a lot by the business community, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, those types of guys. Yeah. And you're just not seeing that pressure work this year because
hey, Mike, if I can jump in, if I can jump in just on a time standpoint. Sure. I just had Leonard Lance on, and you could see that he wants nothing to do with where the Tea Party is going, certainly on the debt limit. And we've spoken to some folks, obviously Peter King and a few others. They'll go public, but not enough people followed him. The question is, when or if will Boehner or leadership or the balance in the House finally tell the Tea Party to go scratch on this? Because that seems to be the only way this thing breaks. Other than that, I mean, I saw Yoho today, the most petrifying conversation I've ever heard. He really believes this is good for the world markets if we default. So when and how, or if, does this thing break? Can you see any schism going public within the GOP?
That's the million-dollar question. The thinking here is that Boehner would have already broken. He would have already said, okay, I've got a majority of guys who actually want to do this. It's just it is a minority of the Republican Party that's insisting that these things happen. And so everybody's been waiting and waiting and waiting. And every time Boehner comes out of these meetings and gets to the mics, it's like he just digs in even further. And the shutdown obviously didn't prevent anything from happening. The government's been shut down for 10 days, and the markets didn't react to that. So we will see. October 17th is coming very quickly. And if the Armageddon that we're hearing is going to happen to world financial markets does, then that's obviously the steeper deadline than the one we had on October 1st. But it's a great question. I don't have an answer. I'm sorry I don't have any more insights into that. But everybody's kind of scratching their heads and waiting to see when that will happen. Yeah,
my God, we've gotten to this point. Who would have thought? Mike, thank you very much for a few minutes. I really appreciate it. RFL, everybody back right after this quick commercial break.